Yeah, this was 66. And as I say, later he shifted in the 70s, just before he died, and was now dealing with that real problem, which is the problem that Roger Penrose brings into thinking. That, hey, you know, there's something curious, there is some kind of vital intelligibility, and he started focusing on that, and that's where he was going. I'd like to have some questions. I should not have monopolized the whole thing. I just kept on going. Yeah, please.
Could you explain the concept of Platonic
Pardon?
form?
Yeah.
Platonic forms.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that concept? I didn't quite grasp what that was. Are the Platonic forms meta-mathematical? Is that the meta?
Yeah. Would you agree, this is the reasoning, the way it proceeds, that if our entire universe were to end, and all of the galaxies would be to finally end, but if there then was another creation, start all over again, or if our particular galaxy collapses and the other galaxy starts, it may be that some kind of intelligent being sometime in some place will see, the question is it likely they would discover or invent mathematics? All right. Now, watch. Would you agree if anybody somewhere comes up with a straight line, they might then say, you know, if we hold this line and then rotate the end of it, point B, you know what, we could have a circle. And in the same way, if we held this point stationary and rotated this, hey, you know, it's likely it would intersect at another point. And if I draw a straight line from here to here and here to here, you know, I wonder whether that would show that the triangle I just drew is an equilateral triangle. Because all you need is a straight line and just a simple mechanics of rotating. In other words, is it likely that mathematics would be rediscovered? If it's rediscovered, not invented, then it exists. That is, if you have any kind of being, whatever it is, with sufficient intelligence, it will in some way discover a world of mathematics. Is that a possible way of talking? I'm not trying to convince you, but is that a possible way of talking about this? Okay. So, all mathematics, according to a book that was very famous at the turn of the century, written by Whitehead and Russell, called the Principia Mathematica. They studied mathematics and they came together, Whitehead and Russell, and they said, I think I can take all the mathematics, the whole thing, and reduce it down to symbolic logic. And so they did this massive work called the Principia Mathematica, and they reduced all mathematics to a simple formula. And they call this a molecular proposition, fundamental. So you can take anything in mathematics, you can reduce it to this fundamental molecular proposition, which says A is related to B in a series of ways, as C is related to D in a series of ways. That is to say, any two things can be related. Therefore, that presupposes if there are things in the universe, then these things can be related in such a way that you can talk about their sameness and differences, can't you? Well, if you can talk about any two things in the universe, you can talk about only two things. I mean, there are only two things in the universe. They're either things or relations. Well, therefore, you can also talk about things and relations. So let's talk, this is a relation, let's talk about another relation and call that C and D. Would you agree we can also compare relations as we can compare things? Oh, then I can compare this with that, can I not? Well, when I do that, I'm saying A is to B as C is to D. That's an analogy. Therefore, the fundamental nuclear proposition that Whitehead and Russell can be understood in this way to be nothing other than the fundamental analogy that governs all analogical thinking. Oh, well then, wait a minute. If you take the first and the third term in any analogy, right, then that's how you generate similes. A is to B as C is to D. I can say, okay, A is like C. Oh, God is to his universe as an artist is to his project. Oh, see? A is to B as C is to D. God is to the universe as the artist is to his project. Hey, God is an artist. See, A is to C. I can create a whole bunch of similes, can't I? Right? Oh, but wait a minute, didn't we say a moment ago that what theological view is that God had an idea in his mind, and on the basis of that he generated the entire universe. Therefore the whole universe is nothing other than like the model. Therefore the fundamental principle of the entire universe is likeness, isn't it? The idea of likeness. If things could not be like one another, there couldn't be a universe. Therefore the condition of likeness precedes the generation of the universe, right? Hey! That's curious. In order to have likeness, it looks like you have to be able to compare. You have to be able to compare things and relations. And then you can compare relations and relations. Now I can take this analogy and instead of putting A, B, C, D, phooey. Let's substitute numbers. 2 is to 4 is 3 is to 6. Okay, when you move from heterogeneous, different, hetero, to homogeneous terms, that's mathematics. See? Homogeneous means they all belong in the same class. So therefore mathematics is nothing other than an extension of the analogy we're using homogeneous classes. Right? But in analogies, you're dealing with hetero. These terms are different. God is different than the universe, as an artist is different from his project. Therefore, they're differences. They belong in different classes, not in the same class, but you can then, hey, wait a minute. How is it possible, then, that I can do this? How is it possible that we can talk this way? Doesn't that mean in some way that I'm drawing you in to reflect in a certain way about what must be present before creation? Look here, God couldn't have created the universe unless there was an idea in his mind. The idea in his mind must have been a model. Oh, if there's a model, then it can be a copy. Oh, therefore these ideas must pre-exist before creation as the very condition for creation. Oh, by the way, if there's any relationship between the model and the copy, then you can say it's a good production, did we not?